here are 5 reasons that less land is better. You see this space from this electric fence to that fence, and not even from this tree to that tree, is about the yard I would see on the average home in the city. If you own a home and have a yard, that's great. But I have about 30 times that much land on the outside of this over an acre I have fenced in here on my homestead, and I only have 2.5 acres. So how much land do you really need? It's nice to have a buffer, but do you really need 300 acres or 40 acres? Or can you do everything you need to do on an acre or maybe 5? I have 2.5 acres, but my entire homestead is built on about 1 acre of it. So I raise all my own meat. I grow a lot of fruit and vegetables. I will be able to grow just about all of the fruit and vegetables I need. You know, I've got a root cellar, rain harvesting system, a shop, agricultural shed. Everything I need is on about an acre. And, well, that means I don't need to buy 300 acres to sustain my homestead. Living within your means is important. When I started off-grid, I only had $6,000 to my name. I paid cash for my property, and I did everything that I could to make sure that I would succeed. If I bought 40 acres, I couldn't have afforded to fence it. In fact, I couldn't afford to fence the 2.5 acres I had until just now. Just this morning, I finished my perimeter fence. I did put up a makeshift fence around about 1 acre. But my point is if you can't afford to fence it, if you can't afford to, build what you need on the homestead, then maybe you should buy less land. When I came out here, the county gave me a rough estimate of where my corners of the property would be. And a lot of people were like, oh, don't waste your time getting your land surveyed, just use those corners. Well, they turned out to be a long way off. And I just recently got my property surveyed, and I had to move my fence. And so this goes hand in hand with the fence is if you can't afford to get your land surveyed and whatnot, then maybe you should get less land. I may not own a ton of land, but my land is spotless. I may not be rich, but there's not trash and stuff everywhere. There's really only a little small space over here that I have some mostly scrap material, and then there's just a box that's basically 4 pallets that's wrapped with wire mesh, and I put trash in that so that it can't blow away. I don't make a mess anywhere. And then once it gets full, I haul that off to the dump, and it's cheap to dump. So having less property is a lot more manageable. You're less likely to have trash. You're less likely to have, just junk and whatnot everywhere. You can build, and I can come out in the morning and feed the animals easily. The water is right next to everything. The hay is right next to everything. It just makes it more manageable to have smaller property. If you're not starting a massive farm, then you might consider just how much land you really need. You can make quite a large garden in a small space. It's possible to sustain a small family on 1 acre of land. And most of the time, that's where a homestead is set up, is on about an acre. 5 acres is great. 40 is awesome because of the buffer it provides you. But if all you can afford is a few acres, then that's plenty, and it's way more than a lot in a residential area. Finally, if you're strategic like I was, and you move clear out into the middle of nowhere, and you look at who owns the land around you, and it turns out that it's mostly like BLM land and a huge railroad company, huge cattle company. Well, in my case, I'm sitting on hundreds of acres, and I'm all alone. And it's just like having hundreds of acres. And, maybe down the road one day, if I feel like it, I can, have saved a ton of money and maybe go buy 300 acres somewhere else. But it's really great to live within your means. It makes it so much easier to fill your freezer full of food, grow all the meat and fruit and vegetables that you need, and focus on building a rain harvesting system and having all your needs met, rather than, maybe sometimes people are just thinking that that's just what you need, or maybe it's cool to have a lot of land like it is to have a brand new truck that you don't own. I mean, I live frugally, so my perspective may be different than others, but if you live within your means, it sure makes things a lot easier. If you've tried my black powder tonic and thought, wow, this stuff packs a punch, that's because it has black pepper in it, which makes the turmeric 2,000 times more effective. If you haven't tried it, I'll put a discount code below for 20% off. I've been living off-grid in the middle of nowhere for getting close to 4 years now. I harvest most of my own water. I'm capable of harvesting and storing about 40 gallons a day, so I can use about 40 gallons a day. That's why I don't have a much larger garden, is I don't rely on the city so much, and I try to live as if I was disconnected from society altogether. If you think you'd be interested in learning more about my homestead, I'll put a couple videos up here. I've made over 400 videos. Subscribe and you can learn more about the homestead, and I'll catch you guys on my next video.